Hello everybody, this is Gregory with Permanent Weight Loss Made Easy, where there should be no hesitation in your weight loss and in your weight maintenance. Today we're going to talk about exercise and how your exercise should morph the older you get. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Again, I've lost over 100 pounds and I've kept it up for 30 plus years. Also check out my two books that you can find on Amazon, my two podcasts, The Awakened Man and The Cinema Rag, which you can find on Apple and Spotify. And lastly, if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. Now, I think, like with a lot of things, there's that riddle of the Sphinx in Oedipus Rex, the old Sophocles play, that to enter Thebes, you had to answer the riddle. And the Sphinx would kill you if you didn't answer it. And the riddle was, what crawls on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? And Oedipus was the one who figured it out, and then later killed the king. Well, he already killed the king, but became the king of Thebes and married his mom, who didn't know it was his mom. But the answer is man. And it kind of just reminds me of how, as we age, sometimes our exercise needs to change. And this is pretty obvious. If you think about when we're in high school, for example, how you go to the typical high school, you're going to see the gym, right? Everyone's at the gym, especially the guys, right? It's all like strength training. And yeah, the cross-country guys and maybe the tennis guys and girls and the soccer people are going to be more into cardio, but the majority of 20-year-olds, high school and then later in college, the typical, let's say, guy is very focused on his appearance, right? A lot of vanity. And so it's all about bulking up. And even at that age too, those who are more cardio, because typically you're in one of two camps. You're either a cardio person and you grudgingly do strength training, or you do a lot of lifting and you just grudgingly, if at all, do any cardio. But even those who like to do cardio, typically in their 20s, are going to be doing a lot of the kind of running and the more, I guess, high tempo, high intensity stuff. And as you get older, two things change that are very obvious. One is your body just can't hold up to a lot of stuff, maybe as much as you were doing before. Like if you're an ultra marathoner, which I don't recommend, maybe you're running 70 miles. When you get older, maybe you can't do that. Yes, there's always exceptions, but maybe you can't do it when you're 62. So your body doesn't hold up as much. But the other thing is that you get more wisdom, hopefully, and prudence. Prudence is a cardinal virtue in the Christian world, an ancient virtue. And you don't necessarily want to be doing the same things at 48 that you did when you were 20, in terms of eating, of course, and working out. I mean, certainly this can apply to eating as well. Maybe that'll be a future episode. But when it comes to working out, sometimes you have to adapt. And some of the need for adapting or adaptation can come from just you gained weight. And as a result of gaining weight, lots of times what happens? Your knees start to hurt. One of the, if not the biggest reason that people get knee arthroplasty is because they put too much weight on their knees, and then the synovial fluid in their knee joints doesn't allow the femur and tibia never to touch each other, and so now they start touching each other, and now you got cartilage on cartilage, and eventually that smoothness rips, and then you have pain. So if you're regular weighted, unless you have an autoimmune knee joint problem like rheumatoid arthritis, if you're regular weighted, you're not going to have necessarily joint problems. But sometimes these kind of factors necessitate you having to change. So maybe you could lift a lot, and then you hit 40 and your back gave out, or your hams ripped when you were squatting inappropriately, or you can't run anymore because you've gained too much weight. What are you going to do? Well, some people are just going to quit, and that's their excuse for quitting. They're just going to be like, yeah, I can't work out anymore. But you really have to adapt. And I see this at my gym. And that my gym has like a very big contingent of older men who swim. We have an indoor pool. I have an indoor track, which I've talked about on my pet peeves on running on my track. But you see a lot of men who are smart, who used to do a lot of just being physically fit. They love being physically fit. And it's wired in them. They either like the endorphin high, or they just like being fit, or they enjoy it, or whatever it is. And they realize, okay, look, I am 55 now. I have limitations, whatever it might be. But I still want to work out. I still want to stay in shape. I want to live a long time. I want to see my kids, my grandkids, whatever it is. And so they transition. And so look, if you have bad knees, you shouldn't be running. There's studies that show that Actually, running is not bad for your joints. It's actually good for your joints. But ideally, you want to be running on surfaces that give you some leeway. So like turf, for example, or some cushion, and not on asphalt or sidewalk or anything like that. But for whatever reason, your joints might give out. Or like I said, when it comes to lifting, maybe you tore a pec muscle. So how are you going to adapt? And you need to adapt. Look, when it comes to weight loss and weight maintenance, you're going to have to adapt. I had to adapt in the 33 years now that I've kept my weight off. 33 years. I mean, look, early on in my 20s, and go to the playlist Reflections of a Weight Loss Warrior where I talk about it. I mean, I was running 6 miles a day every day. I mean, no breaks. And then there was a time in my life when I was in my mid-20s where I was running 11, 12 miles a couple of times a day, a couple times a week, I should say, in addition to the 5 miles on the other days. But it was just too much. Like I wouldn't want to do that now. Like I can still run 5 miles. I do it alternately every day, every other day. And, you know, I can run like an 8.5 minute clip on a treadmill, but I don't have any interest to run 15 miles. I have no interest to run a half marathon. I could get ready for one. It wouldn't take me that long. Or a full marathon or an ultra marathon. I have just no interest in that. And I think that's just a combination of wisdom and prudence. No offense to anyone who wants to do marathons, because like my brother, for example, does marathons, and I think that a lot of people want to do marathons, and I talk about in the marathon episode, is they feel their pangs of mortality in their 40s, and they have to overcompensate, because they're like, oh, death's approaching, and I need to show that I'm still alive and I'm still vigorous. For me, it's always just been weight maintenance, and weight maintenance is I'm not going to spend a long time working out every day. I once dated a triathlete, and she would literally, I mean, she had a part-time job, but she had family money, so she didn't have to have a full-time job. But I'm not kidding you, half of her day was, oh, I got a bike 40 miles, run 10 miles, and swim 50 laps in the pool. That was like a regular day to train. And I don't want that. I'm like, okay, I'll go to the gym at the most 2 hours, and in that 2 hours I'm doing lifting, I'm doing cardio, and I'm doing dry sauna, and I'm showering, and I'm shaving my head, and all these things. But you have to morph. And so I've morphed where I don't run nearly as much. I do a lot of rowing. I love rowing. And I already anticipate, like, I've never had any major injuries, but I anticipate at some point in my life, even though I'm not a good swimmer, I will morph to swimming when my joints start to give away, or if I have an injury or something like that. I don't anticipate running when I'm 65. I do see older men on the track, but as a whole, older men up there are overweight and they can't run that long. And there are some men in their 50s, 60s who can run like a mile, but you just don't see a lot of old men running. I see a lot of old men swimming, and they're in shape, they're cut. And swimming is a great sport if you have a pool and you're good at it. My problem is I never learned to swim with technique. I learned at 5 how not to drown. And so my technique is atrociously bad. And post in the comments if you swim, if somebody like me can ever get a good enough technique to be able to do laps for 45 minutes straight, freestyle or whatever it is. But my goal and my point here is adaptation. Like Darwin would say, survival of the fittest is important if you want to lose the weight and, more importantly, maintain the weight. As we get older, our body changes. As we get older, our vigor and our rigor changes, and we have to adapt. And if we don't adapt, we're probably just going to give up working out, or we're just going to hurt our body even more doing the thing that we did 15 years ago. And eventually we have to get to a point where we can still get a good workout for our heart and for our body, not one that's going to cause permanent injury, and one that it's something that we like to do too. I like to run with music. I've never gotten bored of that. There are people who hate doing that, running in a circle indefinitely. I like doing that. So you got to find something where you can adapt. It's still a good workout. You're still biohacking by dry saunas and fasting and all these things, and it's something that you'll love. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. How have you adapted given your weight gain or weight loss? I'd like to hear from you. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.